Hello, this is John Ramsey, and this is My Big Comeback. I have a very special guest with me today, Rachel Duvall from Humble House Ministries. And we're so glad to have you, Rachel. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and your ministry. Tell me about Humble House first.
So, Humble House, we started in 2020, and we started with a transitional house in Callaway, and eventually moved into opened a recovery program in Callaway as well. So we had a 12-month recovery program, and then we had our transitional housing for women getting out of prison. And then also the women who went through the recovery program, they would also go into transitional as well before graduation. So, and then in 2023, we bought our new house on John Pitts, where we have our recovery program up top and another transitional house at on the bottom floor. And we also have a thrift store now here in Lynn Haven.
I saw that in Lynn Haven. Where's it at in Lynn Haven?
On 26th Street.
26th Street.
Where that old Trader Joe's used to be.
Oh, where Trader Joe's used to be. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yep. So two houses, am I understanding, or one?
So we have.
You had two, and you're in one now.
Yep, and we had three at one point. We just shut down one because really the one at John Pitts is two. So we consider that two because it's two different programs, but we have a recovery program and then two transitional houses.
So about how many ladies there?
So we actually just did a big turnover where a lot of our girls went into transitional, and we have accepted even this week 3 girls we have coming in this week, 3 new girls.
Great.
So we'll have 10 in recovery, and we have 5 girls in transitional downstairs with 4 children, and then we have we're almost full at our other house, I think, with 8 women.
Yeah.
Transitional in Callaway. So
about how long do they stay their residence with you before they graduate?
So they have to be, if they go in the recovery program, they have to be there for a year. So it's 6 months transitional, 6 months recovery, 6 months transitional.
Yeah.
And then if they come in, we try to meet a lot of different needs of the community. So if they come in, say it's someone in prison, they've been in prison for a year, we don't make them go through the recovery program. So they can go directly into transitional, and for them it's a 6-month commitment. Yeah. But we ask everyone to stay longer, as long as they want. We want them to save up money, move into their own stable housing. That is our goal for them. So. Well,
I really respect it. Being at Harvest for 35 years, we've done a lot of prison ministry, a lot of recovery, and it's a challenging ministry. It's not as easy as people think.
It is.
But it's. I remember an elder asking me one time. They said, "Why do we do this prison ministry? Why do we?" And it's because we want them to succeed. Mm-hmm. We want. I think the statistic that we used to deal with was 70% of people that were incarcerated will return to incarceration. That's a terrible percentage. Mm-hmm. It's like a revolving door. And if the church ministries can help these people get a better start and start over, it's a great thing. Mm-hmm. It's a great thing. How did you get involved with that?
Well, it's funny you ask, because that's exactly how I was reached. So from age 14 to 24, I was in addiction, and was incarcerated several times. One time I had to stay for 5 months. I went through the little Lifeline program there, and I remember I was young, and I would say things like, I will never be an IV drug user, and I kind of judged the other girls around me, thinking, oh, I'll never get to that kind of place, and I really want to walk with God, and I did get close to the Lord, and I went to the church services there, and I just had this mindset, I'm not coming back, and I got out. Went back around old friends and family, and it was a kind of a slow fade. It really took me by surprise how the relapse happened, but I ended up running from the police for 2 years, catching 4 more felony charges, becoming an IV drug user,
wow.
And went back to jail for another 5 months. And this time I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, Brianna, and the judge had mercy on me. I could have easily went to prison, but he had mercy on me and gave me the Mommy and Me program at Aware, and so I was able to have my child, with me and go through that program. But before, I went into that program, I sat in the Bay County Jail for about 5 months waiting for a bed to open. And this time, I remember going into the jail, and my whole attitude was totally different. And I just prayed, God, please show me how not to come back here.
Yeah.
So it wasn't this, I'm never coming back here. It was, God, just show me how not to. And one of the things he said to me was, if you look like, and if you're doing the same thing as everyone around you that they're doing, you will come back. And so that's when that separation process really started to happen. And I started pulling back and, not visiting the different little, dorms they have,
yeah.
And going to church
I found
services.
it's like almost a structure that people get in when they're struggling with addiction and incarceration. And what I found, when we were ministering to the guys in prison and ladies, is that when they get out, they go back to the same structure of family, friends, bad environments that they did, and it almost funnels you back into it. So it's about tearing down the scaffolding of that whole system that puts you in jail, the whole environment that puts you in jail, and trying to change that. And it's a hard change.
It is. I always tell the girls, so I've ministered inside the jail for probably 18 years now. I was a volunteer going in monthly. And then in 2020, when I stopped working at Bethel Village with the Rescue Mission, I used to run the recovery program and homeless shelter there. The sheriff hired me on as a contract worker at the Bay County Jail. And so during that time of COVID, when there were no volunteers allowed to come in, I had the privilege of working there, 40 hours a week, and I did a lot of discipleship classes, a lot of teaching and certificates and different things they like. But I spent a lot of time there, and one of my jobs was to help women find somewhere to go, hopefully get into a recovery program instead of prison if they had drug charges, and to find new housing, when they got out. And one of the things I used to say, and I still say to them, is, right now in your mind, imagine who's picking you up from the jail. Like if you were to get out right now, or you're getting out next week, who's your ride? And I always say, that's where you'll be in, the next year. And if that's who picked you up last time, well, then you'll be back. You've got to make the changes.
You got to make the change. You got to make the change of who you're around and what environments you're in, because those environments are sometimes destructive.
They are.
And it's hard. Because you're talking about people leaving their families, but sometimes you have to break from your family to get away from it. It's a tough thing. I've saw it over and over again with some of the people. So where are you from? Are you originally from Bay County?
So I was born in Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah. And my dad was quite a hippie and wanderer and wanted to show us the United States. So we traveled a lot. My mom really, had to pick up the pieces of my dad quite a bit. I remember one time we had left him. He was very abusive to my mom. And so we left him once when he was at work. We were living in Panama City at the time. And we went to Birmingham, and we kind of reestablished our lives. We had been there for about a year. I remember coming home from school one day and seeing my dad's truck parked outside the apartment. And I was so upset, I had to go to my friend's house to cry. And then when I got back around him, I had to pretend like I was, just so happy to see him. And I was not, I was just devastated. And probably about 3 months later, the microwave disappeared and the TV disappeared.
Yeah.
And,
he was struggling with addiction.
He was struggling with addiction, and he packed us up, and we had a station wagon. It was 4 of us kids, and my mom and my dad. And my mom tells a story. We had a pack of food stamps, and $75 to our name, and we headed, across the country to Arizona. It took us about 3 months to get there. We lived in our car. We ate out of, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, and got money from churches to be able to, pay for gas. And he'd give each one of the kids a $1 food stamp. We'd go in and buy a 5-cent piece of candy, and he'd use the rest for beer and gas. We loved it. We got our candy.
Well, and people don't realize that when they raise their children in addiction, it affects them. It affects their whole life. We have a statistic we go by with child care that is well documented, that the first 5 years of a child's life, which is what we deal with in preschool, sets up their trajectory for their whole life. And so you're a little kid, you're a little girl growing up around seeing that addiction, seeing that abuse. It really does set a pattern in your life that you don't just have to survive, which is the first challenge. The next challenge is you've got to break that pattern. It's tough. It's tough.
It is, and I'm grateful. My mom, for the first 10 years of our lives, she raised us in church. We went to the Rock back when it was the Rock Church, and so we did have a good foundation laid by her. She was not in addiction for the first probably 12 years of my life. But then I was burned by hot grease when I was 10 on 60% of my body, 350 degrees grease. So it was 3rd-degree burns. And my brother, 2 weeks prior to that, or 2 weeks before that, he had fallen off his bicycle and broke his femur bone. So he was on one couch in a full body cast, and I was on the other couch in a burn tent. And I don't recall us going back to church after that. And then eventually, when we went to Arizona that time, we had told my mom about the sexual abuse from my dad. I guess we felt maybe in that time that he was gone for that year that we could trust, that we could tell her. And she confronted him, which a lot of moms don't do, and she confronted him and he left, he ran. And so we didn't see him again for years and years. But from that point, my mom had to kind of rebuild our lives again, but this time it was without that, strong, male influence in our lives. And that's kind of how we all eventually, all of us, my mom, my sister's brother, we all ended up going into addiction.
Yeah. So when was the age where you really turned the corner and really were able to break that cycle?
24 years old.
Yeah.
So when I was 22, I did get out of jail and I did relapse, but I'm really grateful for that now because there was still a lot of pride and self-sufficiency and then I did not know where my boundaries, where I need to place the boundaries in my life, and one of them was my family. So when I was 24 is when I went back to jail, and I was there for a while, but I just really dove into my Bible. I mean, I read it every day. I went to the church services, so I'm so grateful for the volunteers that go into the jails and prisons like you guys do. It really is life-changing. A lot of people say, jailhouse religion, but you really never know when it will stick, when someone's really serious and it becomes life-changing to them. Yeah. I've seen a lot of lives changed in the Bay County Jail and in the prison. So.
Absolutely. I think people discount it because they've written them people off. We can't write anybody off. We don't have that option to. We have to continue to try to reach people no matter where they are, as many times as it takes. When Peter asked Jesus, how many times do I forgive my brother? You keep forgiving them 7 times 70. You never stop. You'll run out of daylight before you run out of needs to forgive. And it's hard. It's hard on families. Sometimes it's hard on communities because I know you've seen a lot of changes in Panama City, and I'm thankful for the ministries like yours that are helping people because those people that are struggling with addiction are part of the equation. Every community has them. Every community has people that are struggling with these needs, and we can't just say, well, we're not going to deal with them, or we're going to hide them, or we're going to push them away. It's not an option. Somebody has to minister to them. Somebody has to help them. And
that's really the major changing point, the turning point in my life was the first time I did not have support. The second time I was invited to the Most Excellent Way at First Baptist Church, and it's a support group for drug and alcohol addiction, and Rick and Vicki McClung, they were, Rick McClung's associate pastor there, and of course, Pastor Connor, and they kind of took me in under their wing, and they really poured into me and discipled me and helped me through all those kind of crazy challenges and just, all the crazy thoughts and, you're being pulled all these different directions, and they really helped guide my life. And I think that was, someone else investing in me is really what helped to change my life. And I think that's where the whole ministry was birthed from my soul was, I know how much that helped me and how much I appreciated it. And so from the very, beginning, I just had this burning desire in my heart to go out and share with other people and to help them in the way that God had helped me through them.
And give them a safe place. I think that's what a lot of challenges are for women is not just them, but their children. They have to have a safe place. And, when you're dependent on someone else to provide that becomes challenging. When you have the option to say, I can stay here, without your help, I can stay here without my family, and me and my child can be safe here. That's important.
Yeah, and that's so rare. How many people really have that at their disposal? Especially if you go to jail for 30 days, you probably lose your apartment. Just getting back on your feet is such a hardship, and there's so much that you have to do, to meet the terms of probation. Go to probation, check in, go down to the, back to the Bay County Jail and, register as a felon, but you have to have an ID to do that, and so. Those are some of the stressors that, we like to take off at Humble House is helping them with their IDs and getting registered and all the things. I think that's, when I was in Most Excellent Way, I would minister to these girls and just kind of be in the ditch with them, walking them through ministry and life changes and helping to disciple them and help them along. But there was always this deeper desire in my heart to do more. I just wanted to do more. And when I was in rehab, when I was 24, they had me to write my obituary. And in the obituary, you could have died any way you wanted. It kind of sounds a little morbid, but it was actually a great exercise. And I wrote mine as if, I got clean and stayed clean and whatever vision I wanted for the future, and so I said, Rachel, my maiden name Hamrick, was 24 years old. She surrendered her life to the Lord, and I think by age 31 or something like that, she opened a recovery program for families. And the reason that's important is, I had my daughter in rehab with me, but I also had my mom in rehab with me. She got court ordered about 3 months behind me. I did not know she was coming in. And so it was me, my mom, and my little newborn baby in rehab together. So I just wanted to have a place where families could go. I always just wanted my whole family to be able to go and get clean. And so that's kind of the heart of the ministry of Humble House as well.
Wow. Well, I am enjoying talking to you. We're going to take a break just a moment and listen to some of our sponsors. We'll be right back with John Ramsey with My Big Comeback.
Harvest Christian Academy, quality child care and preschool for children infant to 5 years old. We are state certified and licensed through DCF with an experienced caring staff. We also offer free volunteer pre-kindergarten for all 4-year-olds. Harvest Christian Academy for all your child care needs. Enroll your child today. Call 850-271-9647.
Tell me this. Tell me about some of the other locations and all you have, because you have something in Tallahassee, don't you?
We do. So we have a recovery program there, a full recovery program, and we have a transitional house now, and we just opened a thrift store this past year as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So a lot going on, and basically, are you working through the jail in Tallahassee and stuff like that, or?
We work actually through all the surrounding counties. We work here at the Bay County Jail, but we have a
Do you
girl.
get people from other counties?
Yeah, we have a girl coming in today from Jackson County.
Wow. A lot of people don't realize those rural areas face the same things we do, and some of the biggest challenges. What is when you want to help change a woman's life? What's the biggest challenge that they've got? What's the biggest need that you can do to help them? The thing that is going to be the biggest task for them to overcome.
I would say it's the ability to assess their willingness and their readiness to change.
If they're ready to change.
Because
someone won't change until they're ready to.
And it's so hard to assess from an interview. I always want to do a face-to-face interview. If I can, I'll do a FaceTime. But it's so hard to assess. And, one of the things that we look for is humility. I always ask you, what's your plan B?
Yeah.
And we really hope that they don't have one, that they're all in. But, it takes... We try to cast a vision with God's word, by faith through testimony of what God's done in our lives and the lives of our staff that have come through the recovery process, and try to show them a vision of what their life could really look like in the future. Yeah. And unless they buy into that, I just don't know. They've really got to catch that vision of what God can do in their lives.
Well, and I face it in church all the time, because we deal with these things every day. And, it's all a matter of, are they ready to change? Have they, is it that rock bottom moment? Is this their rock bottom, or can it go worse? And, until they're ready to change, you can't really help them. You can't, all you can do is, and you've heard the old saying of, I'm not going to help you stay the same. I'm going to help you change. I'm not going to,
you don't want to enable them.
Enable them. That's the word I'm looking for. You don't want to enable them. I don't want to help you stay addicted. I don't want to help you stay broken. I want to help you get free. And that's a challenging thing.
It is. We had, I think we did 2023 to 2024, because we like to track our graduates a year out, and it takes a year to graduate. So, and we had a 87% success rate for our graduates, which is a really high number.
That is a high number.
But 70 people went through the program, but only 21 graduated. So you say, what's the hardest part of, what we do in ministering with these women? That gap between the 70 and 21, and it's,
they don't follow it through.
They just don't follow through. And I think they get clean enough to think, I got this. And they don't work through that whole process and, get to the root of it. And they're not willing to do the hard work that it's going to take to make the changes.
If I asked you what the Bay County specifically, what's our biggest problem as far as drug? I mean, are we talking about meth? Are we talking about fentanyl? What is the problem we're fighting here in Bay County?
I would say, just according to our applications and what I know based on the inmates in the Bay County Jail, I would say that crystal meth is probably the number one. However, fentanyl is the most dangerous.
Yeah.
But even if you're an IV drug user and doing anything, if they just put a little bit of that fentanyl in, if you're doing a Xanax and it's pressed with fentanyl and you had no idea, then okay, well then now Xanaxes are the problem. So, it's really it's just dangerous.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous out there.
Yeah, it's dangerous, and I know that a lot of places don't realize that how dangerous it is. I mean, just a little tiny bit. And I talked with some of our law enforcement officers about them, when they're dealing with this out in the field, if they come across it, it puts them in danger. They can get poisoned. They can get just even by handling this stuff. So it's just a plague in our communities, and I hope it goes away. I mean, I hope we are successful at stopping it from coming in our country to begin with, and then getting to our communities, which costs lives and makes it hard on everyone.
Yeah, my husband's the warden at Northwest Florida Reception Center, and they have problems there as well. And then if the staff come across that and they touch it, it's the same thing. So it's dangerous.
With our preschool, we help foster families and all. I think a lot of people don't realize that when these people go to jail, their families or their children, sometimes young children, are out there homeless.
Yep.
And it's heartbreaking. It really is. I mean, the displacement of children is something that I think we forget about.
Yep.
And it's really harsh.
So, I said that I wanted to open a recovery program for families, but, every time someone would ask me, hey, can I bring my children? I would say, no, like, we're not ready. Like, we don't have enough staff. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough rooms. And in 2022, a young lady came through that we just fell in love with, and she had a DCF case plan, and she had 1 month to work this case plan, or she was going to be at termination of parental rights. Well, her son had just died a year prior in the fire, and in their house fire, and she was in addiction that whole year after just this major trauma. And so our heart was just for her. But as we started working this case plan, we realized, okay, so you go from visitation, you supervise, you take them to the DCF office and do supervise. Then the next step is unsupervised, where the children come to the home. So now I'm like, okay, how are we going to have these children and have, our offices are going? And so we just kind of adjusted. And then it was, okay, well, now they get weekends. So it's like, okay, so we bought a couple little, they were 2 years old, little toddler beds, and put them in this room. We said, okay, we're just going to call this our family room and put them in there. And then they had their weekends, and then it was time for reunification. And if they did not have a place for them to stay at reunification, she was going to lose her children. But she was also, court-ordered to a recovery program. So in 2022, we started our Moms with Children with DCF, and we have worked, I think it was 21 children have been reunified with their moms, and that was in 2023 or 2024. So even since then, even just this past year, we had a mom that's downstairs. She just got her 3 children reunified through DCF. So we do have a program now where the mom goes through the recovery program. While they're in recovery for that 6 months, we work the DCF case plan. They're still in recovery when they go through transitional. That's part of the process. We want to see, are they applying everything that they've learned? Are they being able to flesh this thing out? But at that point is when they are able to get their children. And we hope that by the end of transitional, they'll be completely reunified and that case will be closed. So we've had great success with that.
And that's what we want. We want them to be free of drugs, free of addiction, stable, able to work, and have their families with them, because that's what the ultimate goal is have their family together. And you can't have your family together if you're struggling with addiction. You can't have your family together if you're in prison. You can't have your family together if you're on the street. I mean, it's getting that whole package together, and that involves with a whole and healthy individual. And it's hard. It's just a hard step, but they've got to see that having their family is worth something. It's worth fighting for. Absolutely. So tell me about what do you read reading these days?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm reading a couple of books. One I just got through with about 3 or 4 on sex trafficking, because we have a couple of ladies that are in our program now. We get referrals from Selah House and Her Song, which are for sex traffic survivors. And so when they need recovery, they'll send them to our program. So I just really wanted to learn as much as I could about what their struggles are. So I've read several. Probably my favorite book is The Pursuit of Love by Rebecca Bender. I'm reading one of Greg Rochelle's. I think it's called Winning the War of Your Mind. And then I read a lot of different things. Matter of fact, I read so many different things. It's hard for me to remember where I would, get
I'm all over the place,
the quotes and things from. But and then I read my Bible every day.
What's your favorite book in the Bible?
Well, the one I go back to the most is probably Joshua. So, every time we open a new Humble House, I always go back to Joshua and just see like kind of what his marching orders were, so I could get my marching orders. And it's always encouraging because it says, do not fear, do not be afraid, have courage. And it's it takes courage.
My favorite book in the Bible is the book of Galatians. And the reason it's my favorite book is because it's all about the Apostle Paul teaching about the difference between spirit and law. And I'm a big spirit person, and I really believe that there's a stark difference between religion and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Religion being more of a rules-based, it's a structure of rules is what it is. Where spirit-based life is a one-on-one relationship connection with God. And I really find that when you find that connection, number one, you begin to understand grace. You begin to understand God is not trying to send me to hell, that he really does love me, and he really is going to give me another chance. And, and it's not another chance to stay broken. It's another chance to become whole. And I think that that's so important with dealing with people with addiction. I remember for many years the people from the ladies from Bethel House came to our church service, and I remember one time seeing someone in the grocery store, and she was kind of avoiding me, and I said, hey, how you doing? She says, hey, Pastor. She said, I haven't been to church in a few months, and I said, I noticed that. I said, I noticed you've been missing. What's going on? And she said, well, I fell off the wagon. I'm in addiction again. And I said, so why haven't you come to church? And she said, well, I didn't want to come back because I'm struggling with this. And I said, look, this is the way it works. You don't clean up to take a bath. You just get in. And the most important thing, and I told her, I said, come drunk, come high, come whatever. Just keep coming to church until you get to that place where you've made that God connection as an individual, and your life changes. And it may be steps, it may be many things, but God's never going to give up on you.
That's right.
Never gave up on Rachel, never gave up on John, never gives up on you.
Praise
and
God.
what we have to do is encourage people to keep coming. And I know that, when you're talking about them making it through the whole program, I mean, there are people that are going to fall along the way, and we hope they don't give up on trying to get better and trying to be right. I'm going to take one more break. We have sponsors that help us with our program. If you'd like to be a sponsor, contact us, and we'll get some help with putting your name on that banner down there. We're glad to be talking with Rachel Duvall today, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Are you ready to connect your organization with an audience that is eager for inspiration? My Big Comeback, hosted by John R. Ramsey, shares powerful stories of resilience and redemption, featuring guests who have turned life setbacks into major comebacks. New episodes drop the 1st and 15th of every month. For those interested in being a part of this community, sponsorship opportunities are now available. To learn more, contact Sophia Tim at sophiatimhwc@gmail.com. Let's make a comeback together.
This is John Ramsey, and this is My Big Comeback. And talk about comebacks, I'm talking to Rachel Duvall and all the things that she's been through and overcome. And she is an overcomer, and she's at Humble House Ministries. And they help people that are coming out of jail. They help ladies that are struggling with addiction, and they have a great program there. And you, like all nonprofits, you depend on the graciousness and the generosity of our community, and we have a very giving community. But you've got a golf tournament coming up. Tell me about that.
We do. It's our annual golf tournament, and it's going to be at Bay Point on Friday, September 12th. And if they go to our website, you can register your teams now. It's a great, we have a great time. We have lots of fun games, giveaways, and our website is humblehouseministries.org, and that's where they can register their team.
Humblehouseministries.org.
And we have a Facebook page where we keep all of our stuff updated, so you can see all the
Well, I
things
may
coming
get,
in.
is it four-man team? Is it all that?
It is,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
I may get me 3 friends and go out there and play.
Please do.
And,
I'm telling you, we have a blast. We really do. We have a good time.
I like to play golf.
Yeah.
I love the Bay Point course, and I like Signal Hill's one of my favorite golf courses. Do you golf?
No, I don't, but I like to have fun.
Yeah, have
so,
fun.
like, if
That's
you
all
go
right.
out there and golf, then I'll ride around the cart and make fun of you and, shoot little golf balls at you and
yeah,
give you
that's
free
good.
things.
That's
and,
what I
yeah.
need is someone making fun of me.
No,
That's
we
right.
we have a really good time.
I think it's fun and it's for a good cause. And anytime you can have fun and do it for a good cause, it's a great thing. And so most of the time, just individuals supporting your ministry, churches. What do you do?
I love that we're thinking ahead and you gave me some thoughts to ponder. And one of the questions you asked was, what do you love about Bay County? And, you know, I was also asked the same thing when I went to the governor's office. I was able to get in March a clemency for all my charges, so a full pardon. And, you know, he had asked the same thing, and I love our county. I love our county so much.
We have giving people.
Giving people. And, you know, from, you know, all the way from the top, you know, with the governor, all the way, you know, to even our local sheriff, Tommy Ford, like everyone is just so caring of the other people in the community. So I've just found a lot of support through just caring people from individuals, from organizations, from churches. Our favorite thing to do is to go into a church and share about Humble House and let one of our girls share their testimony. And, you know, that's how we just, by word of mouth. We do not get any government funding, you know, because we are faith-based. So we really are dependent on these fundraisers and individuals.
And you have
giving.
a thrift store.
And we have a
Tell
thrift
me about
store.
that.
So we opened it because we really wanted the girls to be able to have, you know, another extension of the recovery program for work therapy. You know, we want to be able to have something they can put on their resume that says, you know, that where there's not that big blank for a year, you know, of what have you been doing for the past year. So they can put they've worked in the thrift store and all those things. But we have a lot of really cool items. It's a very clean and organized store and
So
very
when
well
people
priced.
want to get rid of something, they can bring it to you.
They can call
It gets
us.
sold and goes to a good cause.
That's right.
helping
And we'll
out.
even come pick it up. So they can
That's
call the thrift
great.
store, the Humble House thrift store. We'll pick it up. And then they need things for their home. You know, we've got lots of stuff.
That's great. So tell me about your bucket list. Like, you know, because here's what I believe with inspiration. I believe only an inspired person can inspire other people. So you got to have things that you want to do, you want to see, and not just with Humble House, not just with ministry, but with life. So what are some of the things on your bucket list?
The number one thing on my bucket list is to go to Israel.
Really?
Yes,
That's
I want to go
fantastic.
so bad. I'm such a visual learner. You know, I want to be able to see, you know, kind of what I'm looking at. When I teach, I tell stories, and even through the Bible, the way I've fallen in love with it is, you know, the stories, and I love to see those kind of stories come to life. And so, anyways, I just want to see Israel. I want to see the places where Jesus walked, and just have a better visual aid for my personal Bible reading. But I also would love to build a Humble House for men one day. That's kind of on my bucket list. I do believe that we want to minister to the men as well.
You know, we tried it years ago. Our church did something called the Next Step House, because we were working with the work release so much. It was challenging.
It's challenging.
It was challenging, and it did not work for us at the time. But you know, we just didn't have the right setup. It's needed. It really is needed in Bay County. I mean,
And you know, we have to be careful too. You know, just having a transitional house for people getting out of prison, you know, or jail. We've really got to be able to vet them and have a good house mom that lives on the property. And then you know, our transitional house, it's really a recovery program as well, because they still, you know, have apps on their phone to track who they're talking to, you know, where they're going, just for the accountability purposes. And they go to class in the evening. You know, we help them with budget. So we have teachers coming in, teaching. They are accountable to reading their Bible, you know, those kinds of things. And so, but they have to have at least a year clean somewhere. So, or have gone through a recovery program and successfully completed. So they can go directly into transitional if they qualify for that. So those are a few different needs we meet, you know, from transitional into, you know, prison or recovery program into transitional. And then, you know, if they don't have clean time, they have to go through the recovery program first.
You know, every one of us, we meet people along the journey that inspire us, help us, move us in a direction. You know, with me, I know Apostle Nolan Ball was a big person in my life, a big inspiration. Who's one of the most inspiring people you've encountered who really, if we had to pick an individual that helped Rachel, who really helped you?
I would have to say my number one would be, I could tear up saying it, Rick and Vicki McClung. They were the ones that really, I was on house arrest for a year, even when they met me, and they would, you know, come to my house and visit me and, you know, call me and hold me accountable to coming to church and walk me through some relationship things. And so they're probably the number one. And then Pastor Connor has been a huge support and inspiration to me. And then there's just a lot of people along the way that I feel really believed in me and the vision that I had for Humble House Ministries, that from the very beginning when I said, hey, I think this is what we want to do, we want to open our own program, that they just came along and supported me.
And Pastor Connor in First Baptist Church, they still have those ministries there. That's very involved with that. What all ministries do they have at First Baptist?
So the Most Excellent Way is a support group meeting.
Is that a weekly?
It is weekly. It's twice a week, actually. We do a Sunday school class now to help them to get into an environment. If you're coming straight from jail, I went straight from jail into a college and career Bible study when I first got clean, and that was very uncomfortable. And so they set up a Sunday school class for Most Excellent Way to kind of have a place for people like-minded come and connect, and then they all walk over to big church
Sharing
together.
some of the same struggle.
That's right.
So hopefully share the same victory.
Yep. And then Wednesday nights at 6, they split the men and women and do a support group meeting there.
Yeah, it's so important, and a lot of people don't realize that churches do so much of that in the community. I always tell my church, if it was actually the way the Bible has it, the church would handle health care, the church would handle education, the church would handle feeding and supporting people. And I think over the years we gave all that away, but we're anointed to do it. Yeah. The church is anointed to help people. And I'm thankful for people like Pastor Connor. I know he's a great guy, and he's got a great team of people helping people. And the more people we can help, the better.
Yeah, we go into the jails weekly. We go into the prisons monthly. So I know that Rick McClung goes into my husband's prison at Northwest Florida. Yeah. He's got a couple of guys going a couple of times a week. And so I think gosh, he's going to kill me if I get the numbers wrong. I think it's like 32 baptisms they just had.
That's fantastic.
With the men.
They do them there in the prison?
Right in the prison.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's just, it's a community effort,
Yes.
but there's a lot of fruit. And, and I think the church is called because Christ really does give us that love for people.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
It's like a supernatural love. Like you just really love them.
How did the hurricane affect your ministry? Was it already started before the storm?
So the hurricane was before I started Humble House. I was at Bethel Village, actually. And we ended up becoming a hub for food and, toiletry items and things like that.
Look at this book. I was in Dothan, Alabama, and I'm at I guess it was, I forget the bookstore there, but I think it's a Barnes & Noble. So I'm there, I'm looking at this thing, and I said, oh, this book's about a hurricane or whatever. So I pick it up, and I'm looking at it, and then I turn it over in the back, and it's a picture of my church.
That's us.
It's a picture of my church. And of course, I didn't know it was on it, didn't know the book existed. So very surprised to be out of town and see a picture of your church.
That's amazing, yeah.
On the back of the, but it wiped us out.
Because you guys incurred a lot of damage, yeah.
Oh,
I remember driving by.
We had 4 buildings, and we had to demolish, like bulldozer demolish 3 of them. And so we're in the process of building right now. We're getting our steel this week, and hopefully, this next coming weeks, and be starting on that, and we're thrilled about it. But
it looks like it's coming
it affected
together.
everybody.
It
affected everybody, and I think that our whole town is still, people think 7 years later, oh, that's past. There's a lot of people still dealing with it. I know a lot of pastors that are still at temporary locations, and I just didn't know if it affected your ministry yet, but y'all got started after that.
That's actually what shut down the Panama City Rescue Mission men's program.
Yes, I
so
remember
that was unfortunate, but.
Well, we hope that people like you keep helping the people that need it in Bay County, and we're so glad for your ministry, and I'm so thankful for you coming on the program to talk to us, and thank you for being a part of my big comeback.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking with me.
And listen, we're here, Humble House is here for the community as well. So if there's somebody, out there that they have a daughter, that needs help, and they just don't know what to do, even if it's not, the answer is Humble House, but they can always call me at Humble House, and we'll walk them through how to get help. So
thank you. This has been John Ramsey with My Big Comeback, and thank you for joining us today.